What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports, back again with another one. The WBA, World Boxing Association, is upsetting the apple cart in the sport of boxing. They have sent shockwaves through the welterweight division and the heavyweight division. First order of business today was a purse bid, which was won by Golden Boy Promotions, which promotes one of its top young stars, #1 in the WBA, welterweight contender, undefeated Virgil Ortiz Jr. Now he requested that the WBA give him a shot at regular WBA welterweight champion Stanionis, who was actually in pursuit of full WBA welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. Now he took step-aside money to allow unifications between two champions, Errol Spence Jr., who at that time held the IBF and WBC title, and the full WBA welterweight champion, coming off one of the biggest wins, not one of the biggest wins, coming off the biggest win of his career, Stanionis-Ortiz, when he upset the apple cart and defeated Filipino icon, soon-to-be Hall of Fame fighter, Manny Pacquiao. Now, a lot of people out here saying that he took step-aside money twice. That's not the case. He took step-aside money once. He was actually still thinking he had a shot at Errol Spence Jr. as he, along with several other welterweights, were waiting on the whole Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford saga to come to its completion. And it finally has. And sadly, it's the end of the road for Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. I did a video a couple of days ago telling you guys that that fight is DOA, dead on arrival. You forget about that fight happening next. I know a lot of people will still remaining hopeful after Crawford had a highlight reel knockout over David Adversary that this fight could get done for the first quarter of 2023. That's not happening. And this purse bid that finally got done today between Stanionis versus Virgil Ortiz Jr., which was won by Golden Boy Promotions, with a winning bid of $2.3 million, outbidding TGB Promotions, which is the lead promoter for Premier Boxing Champions, which is led by Al Heyman. That's another nail in the coffin of Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford, at least for undisputed. And that's the sad state of affairs for not only the sport of boxing, but for boxing fans, as a fight of that magnitude involving two of the top fighters, not only in the welterweight division, but in my opinion, in all of boxing. I have Terence Crawford #1 on my pound-for-pound list. I have Errol Spence Jr. #2. And that fight has traveled down the same road that Riddick Bowe versus Lennox Lewis traveled down, that Felix Trinidad versus Sugar Shane Mosley traveled down. Why did that fight never got made? The same road that James Toney versus Bernard Hopkins traveled down. These fights that should have got made in the sport of boxing. There was no reason why these fights did not get made. But it's traveled down the same road. And it's the end of the road. To the end of the road. And I can't let go. It's a natural. Yeah, it's over, man. It's over. It's all over. It's all over. Take the L out of lover. It's over, my brother. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But interesting developments in the WBA convention, as this fight here got announced, and that means that the winner of Errol Spence Jr. versus Keith Thurman is ordered to take on the Stanionis versus Virgil Ortiz Jr. winner, as the WBA is working in concert with the WBC to have a unified champion and be like Deontay Wilder once said, one name, one face, one champion per division. The WBA came out earlier this year saying that they was looking to eliminate all those minor league belts, and they're looking to do that by no later than the end of 2023. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But that was the first big announcement. Then we had another announcement that just came down the chute a couple of hours ago that sent shockwaves throughout the heavyweight division. Unified heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk is ordered to take on WBA regular heavyweight champion, the Amir Khan of the heavyweight division, Daniel Dubois. That fight is ordered. So the WBA has mandated that Alexander Usyk must defend his WBA, IBF, and WBO titles versus regular WBA welterweight champion Daniel Dubois. Now, we seen Dubois in his last fight versus some joker named Kevin Lorena sounds like a soap opera actor. What's his name? Kevin Lorena? Sound like somebody playing on General Hospital or something. And he dropped Daniel Dubois not one, not two, but 3 times. Had him in serious trouble. You had some people saying that this fight should have been waved off. But Kevin Lorena didn't have no kind of killer instinct in him. Let that man survive, was scared to go in for the kill, or maybe he was thinking he was going to get caught with something, and then he thought maybe he can catch him down the line. Kind of reminded me in a way of Vladimir Klitschko when he dropped Anthony Joshua and then going for the kill for Anthony Joshua, who was severely hurt at that time, and kind of said, okay, I'll just set it up a little later on. I'll get him up out of there a little later on, and went the cautious route. He ended up getting stopped his own goddamn self as AJ, in the biggest win of his career, showed a lot of grit, showed a lot of dog. Haven't shown that since that fight, was able to stop him in the championship round. I think it was round 11 to become the unified heavyweight champion. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. I think this is a good move. If Frank Warren got in the ear of the WBA, he did. He saw that fight with Kevin Lorena, how shaky he looked. Because Daniel Dubois looked like he a knockout victim waiting to happen, man. His chin is weak. And you in the heavyweight division where one shot can get any heavyweight out of there, man, he ain't even got to get caught with no solid shot. He got a real shaky chin. I thought Anthony Joshua had a shaky chin, but his chin ain't got nothing on Daniel Dubois, man. He is the Amir Khan of the heavyweight division. I thought Dylan White's chin was made of glass. I thought he had a chandelier glass jaw, but I'm telling you right now, none of them two geezers got anything on Daniel Dubois, man. That boy got a, like I said, man, he make Amir Khan look like Muhammad Ali, man. That boy chin is, oh my goodness. He get checked on that chin. He going to night, going to sleep like he had just took some NyQuil. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But Frank Warren, I think him and his team at Queensberry Promotions, I think the dream scenario would be for Alexander Usyk to take on Daniel Dubois and Tyson Fury to take on Joe Joyce. And 3 of the 4 fighters in that equation are being promoted by Frank Warren. As Frank Warren, in that scenario, would have cornered the market in the heavyweight division. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, Alexander Usyk can tell the WBA to go to hell, drop the belt, and still fight Fury in a unification fight instead of undisputed. He's in the same position as Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. can tell the WBC to go to hell, but he is not only going to lose 1 belt, unlike Usyk, who's just going to lose 1 belt, he's going to possibly lose 2 belts, because he's not only going to get stripped in the WBC, but he would get stripped in the WBA. Like I told you earlier, they're working in concert together to get a unification, 1 name, 1 face, 1 champion, a la Deontay Wilder when he was chasing down Anthony Joshua when he was the WBC heavyweight champion. The WBC and the WBA are working in concert together, and they have already mandated that the winner of Errol Spence Jr. and Keith Thurman must take on the winner of Amantia Stanionis versus Virgil Ortiz Jr. And Spence will be taking care of his WBC mandatory versus Thurman, and the WBA will be getting 1 step closer to having 1 champion in the welterweight division, as the winner of the Amantia Stanionis versus Virgil Ortiz Jr. will be in line to fight next the winner of Errol Spence Jr. versus Keith one-time Thurman. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. In that scenario, what is Terrence Crawford going to do? Terrence Crawford got 2 options. He can move up to 154 and challenge the WBO to make the fight happen with Jamel Lyons only Charlo. But I'm going to tell you, in that scenario, Charlo just going to drop the belt. He's already being undisputed. He ain't going to trip on dropping 1 belt. and he'll continue to fight other PBC fighters. He's got a WBC mandatory right after the Tim Tszyu fight versus Sebastian Fedora, who's fighting Tony Harrison. So it could be Tony Harrison. Whoever wins that fight will be in line to take on Jamel Charlo versus Tim Tszyu winner. But perhaps he can go up to the WBO and fight for a vacant belt. Or he can stay at 157 and continue to defend his WBO belts. But the number one contender in the WBO, Virgil Ortiz Jr., has obviously got the fight lined up with Mantis Stanionis, so he will be dropped from the WBO rankings. The number two contender in the WBO, Jerome Boots Ennis, has decided to go the IBF route. He's fighting for the interim title versus Karen. I ain't even bother to say his last name, but that's going to be the co-feature for the Gervonta Tank Davis versus Hector Luis Garcia Showtime pay-per-view fight January 7th. So when you go down there, I think they got Thurman down there right up under those guys. Obviously, he's fighting Spence in the WBC, either fighting Spence or fighting for a vacant WBC belt versus Cody Crowley. That'll be an in-house fight by the PBC if Spence decides not to fight Thurman. They got a guy, Mbinga, who's rated one spot ahead of Cody Crowley, but Mbinga ain't got no name ID here in the U.S. Cody Crowley has fought on several PBC promoted cards. I think he also fought on the card of a pay-per-view fight. He's an undefeated fighter from Canada, so they'll be looking to tap into that market, have a lot of support down there in old Canada. Oh, Canada. Yeah, old Canada. So that's the fight that they can make in-house. So I think that's the likely fight to be made if Spence decides not to fight Keith Thurman. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But Daniel Dubois, him and his team need to take that fight with Alexander Usyk with open arms, because he got exposed in that last fight. They cannot put that guy in there with a legitimate fight, because he's obviously going to have to fight a tougher opponent in his next fight. And then Kevin Lorena, he almost got knocked out by Kevin Lorena. I had never heard that guy before he fought Daniel Dubois. When I saw that name, I said, damn, Kevin Lorena, he sounds like he's an actor on General Hospital or something. He don't seem like no fighter, but he had that boy in serious trouble, but did not have no killer instinct. Let that boy survive and let him make it. And he paid the ultimate price as he ended up getting stopped. He ended up, getting beaten that fight in a fight that he could have actually won. That would have been one of the biggest upsets in the heavyweight divisions in a while, probably since Andy Ruiz knocked out Anthony Joshua in the Big Apple. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Very, very interesting developments at the WBA convention. Alexander Usyk's got a decision to make. Errol Spence Jr. got a decision to make. But Errol Spence Jr. has a chance. He's risking a chance of losing 2 belts. He got 3. Alexander Usyk, his only opportunity at Undisputed was probably in December. But after that tough fight, grueling fight with Anthony Joshua, that was a tough fight for Alexander Usyk. He won the fight convincingly, but AJ fought a much better fight in the second fight he did the first fight. Due to the war between Ukraine and Russia, he decided after the fight to take some time out, spend some time with his family, probably rest not only physically but mentally from the fight with AJ and the ordeal he's going through with Ukraine and Russia. But making that move maybe cost him a chance as Undisputed, because now the WBA has mandated that he must face Daniel Dubois next. So he can't just say, "Nah, I want to fight Tyson Fury." Well, he can do that, but he's going to get stripped of the WBA belt. Daniel Dubois would then fight for the vacant WBA welterweight title, the full version, the full WBA welterweight title. And I got to check the WBA rankings, see who will be next in line. But again, the dream scenario, especially if Frank Warren has his wishes come true, will be for Alexander Usyk to take on Daniel Dubois, and Tyson Fury to take on Joe Joyce. And the winners meet up in the summer of 2023, or no later, the fall winter of 2023. And that'll be a unification fight. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, Tyson Fury, like I said, he's got 2 options. He can fight Joe Joyce, who's the number 1 contender in the WBO, but he's WBC champion. So, I don't think Mario Suleiman will stand in the way of Tyson Fury taking on Joe Joyce. I don't think Joe Joyce is ranked in the WBC. He might be ranked in the WBC, but he's ranked number 1 in the WBO. But if he fights Tyson Fury, if he is ranked in the WBC, he will be dropped from the rankings of the WBO. But he ain't going to care about that because you fighting Tyson Fury, despite the fact that Alexander Usyk got 3 of the 4 major belts. Tyson Fury is the Ring Magazine heavyweight champion. He's the lineal heavyweight champion. And in my opinion, he's the number 1 heavyweight in the division. I don't even look at Usyk as the number 2 heavyweight. In my opinion, Deontay Wilder is the number 2 heavyweight. And I got Usyk number 3. But if you want to put Usyk at number 2 and Deontay Wilder at number 3, I can hear that argument. But that's just my opinion. Because Wilder is the only guy to give Tyson Fury a run for his money. And the only guy to defeat Deontay Wilder is Tyson and Gypsy King Fury. So we will see what happens. And we will see what transpires. But 2 fighters, in my opinion, on the outside looking in the welterweight division, Terence Crawford. And let me just comment on Terence Crawford and his situation. Due to all this going down with the WBA and WBC, Errol Spence Jr. could be tied up for 2023. So like I said in the video a couple of days ago, Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford is dead. But Terence Crawford, in my opinion, will go back to BLK Prime. Now, he said after the fight he's a free agent, but he liked working with BLK Prime. I think BLK Prime is trying to make a splash in boxing. They got a fight in February, I think February 18th, with Adrian the Problem Broner taking on Ivan Redcash. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Terence Crawford go right back to BLK Prime and fight his next fight on that app. And the highest ranked available fighter in the WBO would be Alexis Rocha, who has, I think, 21 wins, 1 loss. Now, he's a Golden Boy promoted fighter. Would Oscar De La Hoya let him go over there and fight on BLK Prime? I think he would. Or maybe Terence Crawford can go fight Alexis Rocha on the zone. That's all could be negotiated. But I think that's the likely next fight for Terence Crawford. He stays at 147. Because, again, Virgil Ortiz Jr. has gone to WBA routes. Jerome Bruce Ennis has gone to IBF route. Thurman has gone to WBC route. Mbinga has no name ID. They're going to push him to the side. They're going to sweep him under the rug like he don't even exist because he ain't got no name, no leverage, nothing. That fight brings nothing to the table. You know what I'm saying? He ain't, you know, that ain't the fight that they going to be looking to make. I think they're going to make, Cleve Thurman, who's ranked number 1. Now, I'm talking about Cleve Thurman. They're going to make Alexis Rocha, who does have name ID here in the United States. Just got through beating Blair the Flair Cobb. Woo! Just got through whooping his ass. And then he fought. His last fight, he didn't look that good, Alexis Rocha. I don't know what was going on in his camp, but he didn't look that sharp his last fight. I'm thinking he looking for a big fight. He looking for a big name. I think Golden Boy Promotion was actually, you know, telling him that he probably would get the Virgil Ortiz Jr. fight. But Virgil Ortiz Jr. saying, man, I ain't trying to fight no Alexis Rocha, man. He already been whooped by, you know, a C-level fighter. I ain't trying to fight him. I want the big names. I want the top dog. Roof. In the welterweight division. I can get the top dogs, then I want a guy on that level, on that tier below them. If I beat him, then them top dogs gonna have to come see me. And that's why he secured the fight with Amantius Stanionis. So we will see what happens. And we will see what transpires. WBA convention making waves in the sport of boxing. And we will see what all comes of all these announcements. In particular, these 2 announcements in the welterweight and heavyweight divisions. We will see what happens. And we will see what transpires. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard.Briscoe.3551. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.